chasing after gamma ray bursts, mapping the southern sky, running a local vineyard and winning a Nobel Prize. All just an average week for Brian Schmidt. He was inspired by Carl Sagan, who he once ran into and knocked over. Now he's bowling us over with his theories about an expanding and accelerating universe. Kate Evans reports.
Professor Brian Schmidt has become a media star overnight, but he hopes winning the Nobel Prize won't change his life too much.
It's been a very busy week, unlike any other week, and I haven't seen any profound changes, which is good. I like my life the way it is.
That life balances working at Mount Stromlo with growing grapes on his rural property near Canberra. It's more than a decade since the vines were planted, and since Professor Schmidt and his team made their famous discovery.
In 1998, we were in the process of trying to figure out the ultimate fate of the universe. We were looking back into time by looking at very distant objects whose light takes billions of years to reach us. So by looking back in time, we're able to see what the universe did 5 billion years ago. And what we expected is that the universe would be slowing down over time because of all the gravity. So in that experiment in 1998, we found the crazy result that the universe wasn't slowing down at all. It was speeding up. And that speeding up meant that gravity in the universe was not behaving as we expected. Somehow, gravity was pushing rather than pulling. It certainly means that for the future of the universe isn't going to, as I had sort of hoped, slow down, come to a halt, and then start to contract, and eventually go into what I call the Gnab-Gib, the Big Bang in reverse. Instead, it appears that it's going to get bigger, bigger, faster and faster. And that means that the universe is not going to have an exciting end. It's rather going to just sort of fizzle out. It'll get bigger and bigger, faster and faster. The galaxies we see today will be eventually so far away, moving so fast that their light will never be able to reach us. So we'll look out into a big, empty, lonely universe. In the short term, this knowledge is not going to radically change people's lives. It's not going to allow us to build new things we're going to use in our kitchen. However, as in all cases of knowledge, the future of how it is used is the big question. In the 1920s, the beginnings of the understanding of quantum mechanics, that atoms can come in and out of existence for very short periods of time, came into being. We didn't know that would lead to essentially the computer revolution. So in this case, the knowledge is not obviously going to change our lives, but it's telling us that there's a bunch of the universe we don't understand. So the only way we could come up with at the time, and still the best explanation we have now, is that the universe is full of something we didn't know existed, which is energy. Well, we give names dark to things that we don't understand. So we have dark matter, which turns out to be about 23% of the universe. We have dark energy, which is 73% of the universe. And we have atoms, the stuff you and I are made out of. That's 4% of the universe. So we're really the icing of a cake, and we don't understand what the cake is. We don't know what flavor it is. And so dark energy is sort of the euphemism we use for this stuff we think permeates space. But it was such a big thing that we are continuing to work on the idea of the accelerating universe, refining our measurements, making sure we understand it as best we can, testing the various theories that have come up over the last 13 years. So it really has been part of my life continually since about 1995.
Love and Mount Stromlo brought Professor Schmidt to Canberra in 1994. He met his wife Jenny at Harvard while they were both doing their PhDs.
She was Australian. She really wanted to come back to Australia. I liked Australia. It's actually quite a bit like where I grew up in Montana and Alaska culturally, much more so than the eastern United States. And so for me, Australia also had the advantage of being a great place to do astronomy. We had Mount Stromlo here, which is one of the great institutions in the world. And so I set about trying to get a job at Mount Stromlo, and it took about 3 or 4 attempts. But in 1994, I got a job, and so we were able to immigrate here. By that time, I was well and truly infected with the wine bug, and we initially moved and lived in town. But we always had a desire to move out and be on a property just outside of Canberra. So in 1999, when we moved out here, I saw this great hill with a perfect north-south slope, which was just the right place to put a vineyard. The thing that the winery offers me is sort of the unknown. You know, in astronomy, I'm always trying to get everything correct. In winemaking, you do your best and you just see what happens. And there's just also the physical labor involved out in the vineyard and in the winery, which I don't get too much in astronomy. So, you know, telescopes now, we tend to remote control, but here I got to get in and move barrels around and move wine around and taste wine and cut grapes and the whole 9 yards. Presumably this Nobel Prize thing is something that adds a certain mystique to the wine. I don't think it's going to make the wine taste any better, but I'm pretty proud of the wine we're making here now. January 18th, 2003, I got a call from one of my PhD students who was up on the mountain. So as I went into Weston Creek on that afternoon, I suddenly saw part of Weston Creek set on fire in front of my eyes, and at which point I, backed the car around and said, it's time to go home. And it was pretty clear to me that damage, you know, that the observatory had been lost, even at that time. Oh, I just felt sick, you know. You see everything burn, you don't really know how long it's going to take, and the answer is it takes forever, it seems. I mean, although we've renewed Mount Stromlo after 8 years, it has been a very long 8 years with almost everyone up there losing really many years of their lives trying to be part of that rebuilding.
But among the ruins, ambitious new projects are being developed by Professor Schmidt and his colleagues, like the huge new telescope, Sky Mapper.
And that's going to sort of provide us a treasure map of all things celestial in the southern sky, which we can go through and study. I'm working with a whole variety of people on a variety of projects, and I have people working on literally the whole gambit from, you know, our own solar system, planets, our galaxy, things near our galaxies, and things on the other side of the universe.
And the laser will be passed off that up into the sky.
So I do a whole range of things, and most of my science is done in front of my computer, writing computer codes, looking and analyzing data, and as I said, working with lots of people.
He also teaches a cosmology course at the ANU.
Rho of nu d nu, well that's 4 over c. I think the sky is very universal. It's one of those things that, you know, a 6-year-old kid can look up into the heavens and want to know what's going on. It's a way of connecting science and physics to everyone.
But for the professionals, modern astronomy is more about mathematics and computer images than staring at the sky.
The new telescopes are built to not even take care of your eye. Your eye just is too small. We want pictures on eyes that are this big that have hundreds of millions of pixels instead of just, you know, a few. So I really love to look at the images and to make these telescopes do things automatically. But looking at the sky, I do every night before I go to bed. I go out and have a look at the stars, but through a telescope, not very often.
Professor Schmidt and his team will be awarded the Nobel Prize in Stockholm in December. But then he'll be returning home to his family and his vines.
I love Canberra, and I just can't imagine leaving it. And so one of the reasons for the vineyard and the winery was to make sure that I stay grounded here and enjoy myself and do something that really is unique. I can be an astronomer at Mount Stromlo, and I can make wine in a great wine region.